Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. Today's session will be more relevant to people who are joining from the Defense Department, but I will be talking about zero trust as an approach, as a concept, and I guess everyone who's handling IT administration and also cybersecurity as a whole for the organization will benefit from today's session. I guess you guys are aware that the Defense Department released their zero trust strategy and roadmap. So they plan to move beyond traditional network security methods. They want to achieve, reduced network attack surfaces or do risk management, and also try to implement zero trust as a strategy, as an architecture across their department by 2027. So every agency who's a part of the Department of Defense is expected to comply to this implementation, which has been outlined in the strategy and the roadmap. But there might be a couple of agencies that have to achieve even more, maybe like the advanced level of zero trust. But today we will take an overview of how you can start with zero trust. So today's agenda will take a look at the Department of Defense's newly released zero trust strategy and Pentagon documents and other sensitive intelligence documents which were leaked due to recent data breaches has forced the organizations in the defense sector to actually think about the strategy and take very proactive steps towards implementing zero trust so that they have a more stringent framework in place. And it's especially important considering that the security of organizations in the defense sector can become potentially an issue of national security, because warfare is no longer limited to the battlefield anymore. It has entered the cyberspace. So it's very crucial for the defense industry to strengthen their security posture. Now, developing a zero trust mindset will definitely help the DoD and other organizations to prevent attacks. Now these attacks, they're becoming increasingly complex by the day. So today we'll take a look at what the DoD zero trust strategy is, the components, and we'll also cover some ground on zero trust and see how we can use DoD's strategy to form an actionable roadmap, and how you can start implementing in your organizations. Then we'll explore how Manage Engine's cybersecurity solution AD360 and Log 360 will help you implement a zero trust framework, which is in line with the DoD strategy. So before we get into the session, I am Debanjali. I am a technical evangelist with Manage Engine, and I am your presenter for today. So, I guess we know by now that the defense industry invests heavily in cybersecurity measures. They have a lot of sensitive information to protect, and a lot of breaches can be prevented through these efforts. Since the cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving, the nature of the threats become very complex. So the risk of data breaches are a very big concern for them. So recently, the Pentagon documents, I think it was sometime in April 2023, they were leaked on a Discord channel which contained American intelligence gathered about other countries. So US DoD vendor breach, which was in 2018, that revealed that a defense contractor suffered a data breach that compromised sensitive data related to US military systems. So it occurred through a third party vendor. It exposed a lot of sensitive details about military equipment. And by adopting a zero trust approach, the DoD thinks and feels or aims to enhance its cybersecurity posture. They want to improve the resilience against these advanced threats and protect sensitive defense information from any unauthorized access, or also prevent data exfiltration. So, these statistics are a grim reminder for all of you listening to the session today that it's not just with the defense industry, it can be with any organization out there. The data breaches are getting really complex right now. The attacks are getting really complex right now. So it's time that people up our socks and we start implementing strategies to prevent such attacks. So we'll take a look at what the DoD Zero Trust strategy actually is and what it entails. So for starters, the U.S. Department of Defense, they released this in October 2022, and then after that they had an executive order that prompted government organizations, technology suppliers, and developers to rethink how they secure applications and technical infrastructure. The DoD, as I mentioned, they want to finish this project within 2027, but they want to implement uh, this at least phase one by fiscal year 2023. The main idea is for the DoD and other organizations in the defense sector to adopt a zero trust mindset, which is actually very, very important. It is not just about implementing a bunch of solutions, it's actually a principle that everyone in the organization, starting from the employees working at the ground level till the ones who are vice presidents or the privileged members, should have a zero trust mindset, should be practicing zero trust on a daily basis. Only this will help prevent attacks and data breaches. So this strategy integrates zero trust principles into five major cybersecurity functions, which is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Now that we have kind of an overview of the strategy, we'll break it down into actionable steps. Now, to begin with, there are seven pillars of zero trust. There are four strategic goals, each of which contains several objectives, and then there are 45 capabilities which are essential to deploy zero trust. And in the next couple of minutes, we'll take like a detailed look at each of these components, and we'll help you understand and develop a roadmap for your own organization's zero trust journey. So, according to this strategy, zero trust is built upon seven pillars, which is users, devices, applications and workloads, data, network and environment, automation and orchestration, visibility and analytics. Now these pillars, they are the foundational pillars for the zero trust security model, and they help determine the components of the zero trust architecture. So all of the four strategic goals or the capabilities will eventually be a subset of these seven pillars. Now, the four strategic goals of DoD's framework, we can break them out into zero trust cultural adoption, which we need to ensure that all the DoD personnel, which is all the staff members, all the employees, which I just mentioned, know, understand, commit to, and are trained to embrace zero trust throughout the organization. So this has to be the first basic step, which I just mentioned before, having the zero trust mindset. The next one will be information systems secured and defended. Now, to have the DoD and its components apply zero trust principles to all new and legacy systems, this is very important. We have to keep in mind that all the information systems that flow in and out of systems that are present inside the Department of Defense, they have to be mapped, they have to be secured, and they have to be defended. And the target level outcomes are planned to be achieved, I think, by the end of 2027. Technology acceleration. Now, we have to ensure that the zero trust based technologies are deployed at the same pace or faster than industry advancements. So it cannot be that the industry is pacing at a really fast speed. There are a lot, especially now with the advancement in artificial intelligence. I'm sure that the tools are going to get even more sophisticated, but we also have to remember that the attacks will also get even more sophisticated. So keeping that in mind, that all the zero trust based technologies, they have to be deployed at a faster pace than the industry advancements, so that all the DoD systems are secured and defended quickly and effectively with up to date technologies. The last one being zero trust enablement. So processes, policies, funding, all of these things need to be aligned to ensure that the zero trust framework is cemented across the Department of Defense. That way, it'll be sustainable, it'll be built into adjacent, complementary, and synergistic DoD technology, information security, budgeting. So, DoD already will have a couple of tools. They will have their own solutions, their information systems, their own architecture, which might be modern or can be legacy as well. We have to ensure any policy that is built around these workloads, they align to the zero trust framework. They have to be sustainable, and they have to be in synergy with the Department of Defense. So each of these strategic goals are now a subset of the various objectives across the seven pillars. Like I mentioned earlier, there are 45 different capabilities that are required to establish and have an environment of zero trust. Uh, Again, these capabilities are also centered around each of the seven pillars that we discussed previously. So, as you can see, 45 different capabilities broken down into subsets of user, device, application, and workload, data, network and environment, automation and orchestration, visibility and analytics. This is a very important image, because this is what we're going to break down and make into actionable items, or these are the critical capabilities that we are going to implement for zero trust. Okay, this is probably something I've been talking about in all my presentations, all my webinars about zero trust, and I am guessing that by now the audience also knows never trust, always verify. So traditional security models, which are perimeter based, they're also known as castle and moat model. They work on the basic premise that everything within an organization's network can be inherently trusted, but everything outside the network is assumed to be hostile or to be harmful. But this model is no longer competent for the current threat landscape, because the rapid digital transformation, we are moving to cloud, we are working from anywhere. So it's not just working from home right now. It is remote work, but it's practically working from anywhere. So, with all of these things, the current threat landscape has evolved. Attacks and breaches may come from anywhere. There's insider attacks, which can prove that traditional perimeter based security is no longer adequate, because you cannot even trust the person who is within your network perimeter. Now, on the other hand, zero trust is built on the fundamental premise that all users, devices, data, and applications, no matter where they are located, within and outside the network, are assumed to be hostile. So, any user, device, application, whatever it is, they will be considered as trustworthy only after it goes through authentication. It is stated as authorized. So this works out great for a hybrid workforce model, where users, devices, and organizational assets are no longer within the confinement of the network perimeter. So the fundamental principle of zero trust, again, which is to never trust and always verify, we already know that. In a zero trust approach, every user, device, application, network itself will be assumed to be harmful, will be assumed to be hostile. Everything will be authenticated before establishing trust. Since no user or entity is trusted, even while they're within the network, a zero trust strategy is the only strategy that will help you prevent insider threats to a great extent. Now, why zero trust? I mean, for the last 10 years, we've been uh, talking about why zero trust, but we have probably seen a lot of deployments in the last maybe 1 or 2 years, but still not up to that extent. I would still say that I don't know of many organizations that have implemented zero trust to its fullest extent or to its fullest capacity. With that in mind, I think it still requires a little bit more of nudging, a little bit more of convincing to get people to implement zero trust. So, for that, I would want to, go over the advantages that organizations have gained who have deployed zero trust. So, first, zero trust delivers fine grained enterprise visibility. So, by creating micro perimeters within the network, you can streamline your security efforts onto each zone. So, you have smaller zones to manage. You can implement policies based on the sensitivity of those zones, and that way you can also minimize the effect of data breaches and lateral movement. So even if an attacker manages to get hold of one zone, which is probably like a less critical zone, if they are microsegmented, they won't be able to laterally move across your network. Secondly, it can power timely incident responses. So, Zero Trust supports round the clock security and monitoring of network. So, continuous monitoring is very, very important for such critical environments. Uh, with Zero Trust, you can have timely implementation of incident response plan by security teams during a cyber attack. So, as you know, that Zero Trust constantly audits entity behavior or user behavior, it can speed up the tracking process, which is a very essential part incident response. So after that, minimizing privileged account abuse. So as I just mentioned, there can be a chance that a lesser critical zone got attacked, but that is a very low possibility because the attacker, they will first try to hack the privileged accounts, because once they get access to those accounts, they have the key to the kingdom. So, privileged credential abuse has emerged as a major cyber threat in recent times. So, to reduce this, Zero Trust deploys just in time access or just in time privilege, where the user and the machine identities receive elevated privileges for a very limited amount of time in order to perform a task. So, that way, even if you are a privileged account member, or even if you're an employee who doesn't have access to privileged data, you will gain access to such critical resources only if you need it and for how long you need it. So that's basically how least privilege access works. We'll get on to talking a little bit about the strategies and the techniques which are fundamental. So, as I just mentioned, to implement zero trust, microsegmentation has to be the first process. It essentially means you're going to divide the network into smaller and more manageable zones, and you will assign policies to those zones based on the sensitivity of the workloads or the resource that it contains. This will also prevent lateral movement within the network. It will also reduce the attack surface to a great extent. And the next method will be to ensure that each user in this zone, based on the policies that each zone has, if the policy entails users to not have access to critical resources, users won't get access to such zones, because least privilege principle is implemented, which will ensure that each user is given access only to the data that's absolutely necessary for performing a specific task. That is, not everyone within the network is given access to everything. Next, it's important that you employ MFA. So, just a normal username and password, for sure, I think everyone knows by now that it's not enough. So, implementing multi factor authentication is very crucial. It'll provide an additional layer of authentication to make sure that only legitimate users are granted access. And if you combine it with single sign on, it also ensures an additional layer of security, but it reduces password fatigue to a great extent. So, more than the security aspect of it, I would say SSO helps with a great deal of making the process very seamless, reduces your password fatigue, and basically gives you a good experience. So, you're secure and you are also having a great login experience. Now, once you have let them in your network, do you stop there? Definitely no. Continuous monitoring is an important aspect of a zero trust architecture, because it'll help you detect any malicious activity, it'll help you take immediate action to limit the damage. So, all of these four action items, or all of these four capabilities, I would say, is very very important for the implementation of zero trust. So even if you're not looking for an advanced level of implementation, these four things are very basic, so you can at least start with that. So, Manage Engine's cybersecurity solution, or Manage Engine's zero trust solution, can help you with a couple of capabilities that you just saw. Like, out of those 45 capabilities, Manage Engine has a solution for every capability. And today I'm going to talk about just a few of them. So, Manage Engine's AD360 and Log 360 can help you implement the capabilities recommended by the DoD for enforcing zero trust. The first capability uh, is adaptive authentication that we're going to talk about. So, authentication is basically a fundamental step towards establishing zero trust. And AD360 uses identity analytics tools to implement contextual risk based authentication. It'll facilitate adaptive authentication, and you can choose from a wide range of authentication methods such as biometrics, push notifications, email verification. There are a lot of other common authentication methods as well, like Google Authenticator and all. Multi-factor authentication is very very important to establish a zero trust architecture, not just for zero trust, for cyber insurance as well. Because as I'm repeating this a lot of times, you have to remember that the attackers are getting smarter day by day, so the attacks are evolving at a very rapid pace. So we have to be on top of things right now. Even after doing everything right, there can be a mishap, there can be an insider threat attack, there can be a negligent employee. So, taking all of this into consideration, it is important that in case of a mishap, in case your organization is attacked, you need to have cyber insurance to get back on your feet again. So there are instances where data breaches have completely paralyzed an organization. Let's not be that. Let's be smart and have cyber insurance. And for cyber insurance, a couple of things are mandatory requirements, and MFA is one such requirement. So apart from adaptive authentication, 8360 also have offline multi-factor authentication. So even if you're not using internet, or even if you're in an area which I think is very relevant for Department of Defense, where they might be in remote places, working from remote areas, so even then you should be able to log into your system securely, for which we have offline MFA. Now, MFA combinations generally include something the user knows. It can be like a password, and then something the user has, like a device or a key card, and something the user is, like fingerprint or biometrics. Now, when MFA is combined with SSO, the attack surface is minimized because you're not entering your password and username and password in multiple applications. So overall, the attacker do not have multiple sessions to target you, uh, for which SSO is very important. It also reduces the friction, which happens a lot of times because employees do not want to, have stronger passwords. They have to remember all of that. They have to ensure each time they use an application, they enter their password, which I believe is a strong password. So all of that creates a lot of password fatigue. With SSO, that gets covered, and it increases your productivity as well. Now, one of the fundamental principles of zero trust is to enforce least privilege access. So, 8360 offers role based access capabilities. It'll help you create, modify, or delete new roles as per your organizational requirements. And these templates for individual roles, they have predefined settings for the user members' access rights or emails or group memberships. So you can define all the necessary attributes for a particular role and apply the same for every member who joins henceforth for that job role. So these role based templates, they can be easily saved, they can be deployed for multiple users and all in a single click. So with this, what happens is that every time an employee joins your organization, your IT admin need not be burdened with modifying their group or their access requirements. So you can just simply create as many role based templates as required based on the number of roles in your organization. And whenever a new employee joins the organization, you have to just apply the appropriate template, and all the necessary privileges will be automatically assigned to the new accounts. So 8360 also integrates with SIM solutions, so your security teams can also consolidate and correlate data from multiple sources for a comprehensive threat detection and response. Now it's extremely important for you to monitor who has access to what, who is making changes to your environment, what changes are being made, and if required, revoke back or fix those misconfigurations. A lot of attacks happen because of misconfigurations in your active directory environment. So, 8360 and log 360 together will help you do that. The next component, which I just said, since 8360 integrates with some solutions, log 360 is a unified SIM solution. It provides capabilities that will help you address the human element. It has integrated DLP and CASB capabilities, which will help you detect, investigate, and respond to security threats. So it can collect, log, and event data from more than 750 types of network sources. It can be AD, workstations, databases, servers, any other sources across the network. So it has a proactive security component through UEBA, which performs real time event correlation. It also integrates with SOAR capabilities. It has CASB integrated capabilities. So all of these things put together go a long way in preventing and managing insider threats. Now, one of the most important functions of a SIM solution is to collect and monitor log data. So, Log 360 does this by collecting and monitoring log data from different sources across the networks. And this continuous monitoring makes it possible to flag any suspicious activity in the network, and also the changes made by privileged accounts can be tracked since they have access to the most sensitive and critical data. So we can be sure that security incidents will be tackled before they result in a data breach or any other serious consequences. They can also perform real time change auditing, and they can provide you audit reports, which again you can use for your compliance mandates. Log 360 also has a UEBA solution, or a UEBA module, I would say, that uses machine learning techniques to build a baseline of normal human behavior. So, as I just mentioned, you have to continuously monitor the network, and UEBA will make this data into things that you can look into and take actions or take decisions. So the IT admins, whenever there is a deviation from this baseline, or it's considered to be an anomalous behavior, the IT admins will get notified so that they can respond to the threat. Now, for example, an employee is attempting to download a large amount of sensitive data outside of their normal working hours. This will be considered as a potential threat. The IT admin will get notified immediately, and he will be able to take action. So, Log 360 uses score based risk assessment to prioritize incident response to the threats. Basically, the UEBA solution maintains a risk score for every single user or entity profile within the network, and every time an entity or user deviates from the baseline of normal behavior, its risk score increases, and the one with the highest risk score will be prioritized and investigated first. So, the high risk events are handled first to prevent potential data breaches. That's what we need right now. I think for zero trust, especially in the Department of Defense, it's very crucial that all of this happens real time, and all administrators working in the Department of Defense have a lot of critical jobs to take care of, which is why it's important to give them an additional edge to see what's priority and what to investigate first and what to take action for first. So, I guess with Log 360's UABA module, you'll be able to do that very easily. It also has DLP capabilities, which will help you identify unusual file or data accesses and prevent any data from being exfiltrated. So, organizations like these who are a part of this industry, they are required to store large amounts of sensitive data. They have to store details of military. Capabilities of other countries. They have to store information about the arms and ammunitions. So all of these information, they're very critical, and often users store this data in different systems throughout the network. So the first step in protecting sensitive data is to identify where it is stored. So with Log 360, you will be able to locate the sensitive information with the pre-configured data discovery policies. It'll also help you locate personally identifiable information, PIIs, like email addresses or credit card information, or anything that's around PII. Then you can create a custom data discovery policy to detect the organization sensitive data, and you can also define the sensitivity of the content and determine the associated risk. Next, you can spot abnormal user behavior, such as any unusual file or data accesses, using the machine learning based user and entity behavior module, the UEBA module. And then you can also delete and quarantine malicious files that probably the attacker might have used or might use to steal sensitive information. A lot of data exfiltration also happens through USB ports, uh, especially if you have an insider attacker, which I think is very relevant in this industry. We do see that a lot. So you can immediately block USB ports indefinitely on detecting suspicious behavior and prevent data from being exfiltrated to external devices. Now, all of this information, it's a lot of data to be fed into and to manually process. So, Log 360 uses advanced threat analytics and built in threat intelligence capabilities with which you can detect malicious sources intruding into your network. For example, you can detect malicious domains or URLs or IPs that intrude into your network. Now, you'll be able to automate your incident response. We have a lot of easy to build workflows, so it'll help you have a quick response to the threat, and it'll perform reputation based scoring so that you can figure out which threat possesses the highest risk, so you can plan your incident response accordingly as well. So with all of this put together, log 360 and 8360 will help you implement zero trust in your organization. As I mentioned in the beginning of this session, that zero trust solution will not be an off the shelf product. It is something that you have to practice every day. It is a journey that the DoD is going to accomplish in the next 5 years. So I'm guessing that if we take baby steps into doing this, maybe implement multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, maybe just have a user behavior analytics module that will also help you with auditing and compliance. So with small steps, I think we can get somewhere. At least we can have the mindset where we practice zero trust principle every day. We become more conscious as employees of the organization and also in our personal lives a little bit. So I would probably want you to understand that zero trust is not a one size fits all solution. So this is going to be the takeaway from today's session, that zero trust is a practice. And if you want Manage Engine to be a part of your journey towards zero trust, I'll be very happy to help you in this process. You can write to me at debs@manageengine.com, and I'll be happy to consult with you, understand your organizational requirements, and suggest you a solution accordingly. I'll provide you with a roadmap or with a strategy that will help you start off with zero trust, which will be tailor made according to your organizational requirements, your organizational architecture, because I'm sure a lot of you guys might have legacy applications. Probably some of you might be on a hybrid model. So, based on how your organization is structured, I'm going to suggest you solutions. So, if you want to catch up with me on a conversation about zero trust, I'd be happy. So please write to me. Thank you so much again for joining today. All of you have been a really lovely audience, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much.